ladies and gentlemen. 5 minutes from now, we'll be starting our webinar. Thank you for those who logged in early. I'm Ray Filnar, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon. Welcome to PMAP-Cebu's third webinar series entitled Finding Mr. Arday, a post-pandemic leadership and people management handbook. According to the author, the best search for an answer is when we realize it's search within. This free webinar is broadcasted over Facebook and YouTube, and just search for PMAP-Cebu and click on that link. A few reminders though, for those who are logged in through Zoom, kindly put your microphones on mute and switch off your video while webinar is ongoing. You may send your questions to our Zoom and YouTube chat box. And you may also interact with the speaker during our Q&A portion. Just press the raise hand icon and we can put you live on screen. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant afternoon. I'm Ray Filnar, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Welcome to Cebu. Welcome to PMAP-Cebu's third webinar series entitled Finding Mr. Arday, a post-pandemic leadership and people management handbook. And we will have a virtual preview of this very interesting handbook. This playbook could come in handy in terms of reimagining and redesigning people experience, from sourcing to onboarding, learning and development to performance coaching, from engagement to crisis management, with a plan in mind to make our organizations, hopefully, crisis-proof. To formally start our webinar, let us spend a few moments of silence for our prayer and the Philippine National Anthem.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, kailas ang silangalan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Upang hinirang, tuyagan ang magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagalang tulong sa simoy at sa langit ng pangaw, ay hinagang tulang awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang lang matawag mo'y tagumpay na nag-iingin, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang ay di magdidinig. Lumalang araw ng walhating pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya ng pantay ng amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this free webinar is brought to you by PMAP-Cebu and our Zoom sponsor, IntelliCare. Now let's watch IntelliCare's video.
The challenges of life demand that we measure up, and that's a fact IntelliCare understands and takes seriously. IntelliCare understands that the cycle of healthcare begins when you're healthy. Because we see the big picture and approach healthcare holistically, we make it possible for you to stay well, prevent illness, or catch it early on. It assures you that when you do need it, professional medical care and treatment will be available. So you can take comfort in the fact that we're managing the resources and cost of quality healthcare. Technology makes it possible for us to serve a wider base of customers online, day and night, so that we can focus on improving the numbers that really matter to us. The numbers that track your health, that drive down the cost of quality healthcare, that show you're in the best of health, so that you can strike a healthy balance in life. A balance that's critical and necessary for a life well lived, something we recognize and fully understand.
We are the leader in healthcare management because of a delicate balance we've achieved through the years. We're grounded on our core value of compassion, yet daring enough to make groundbreaking changes. We take pride in the tradition of excellence, yet always open to innovation. We're anchored in our commitment to the Filipino people, yet unfettered as we reach out to serve them better. And why do we do this? Because we believe that good Quality healthcare isn't something one simply aspires for. It is a constitutional right as inalienable as any other basic human right.
IntelliCare, your intelligent health choice.
Now let us begin. The question is, are you ready for our reset? Now let me introduce to you our speaker for today. He has almost 30 years experience in people management, particularly in the areas of learning and performance, leadership, employment engagement, and communication. He is an author of fiction novels and a trainer by profession, a former FM radio DJ. He's also had significant work experience in sales, marketing, advertising, and event management. He's a playwright, a stage actor, and director, and his first Tagalog screenplay was optioned by Star Cinema. Ladies and gentlemen, the author himself, Mr. Arday, Mr. Juvenir Bataycan. Sir Juve, that is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Ray. Thank you very much, PMAP. And thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. See, Sir Ray, you sound like a DJ yourself, Sir Ray, huh? You're a VJ now. So in a short while, I'll be walking you through this work of mine. I've always am quite grateful for PMAP for allowing me the opportunity to share this with you. It's still in the works and it will be ready. So here we are. In the past 2 months since the lockdown began, I have been quite busy and I have been working on quite two big projects. And I would like to share with you my very first project. And this is the very first project that I had. So I was involved in this project, and yes, I played a bit part, so you probably missed me. So that was my very first project while the quarantine was ongoing. And then I came up with the book. Now the idea for the book was actually about 30 years ago. After I started with my very first HR task, and I was assigned with recruitment. So I won't be able to tell you the entire story because I'd like you to read the book. And when you read the book, you'll find out why the search for Mr. Arday is central to the work. This is the very first virtual preview that I have ever had. And well, tomorrow is supposed to be RC20. So RC20 and me is supposed to start tomorrow and then on Friday. But again, for the very first time in its 20-year history, we're postponing RC because of a health crisis. So this book is my contribution to the practice of human resource management, to people management. And I kind of include a lot of anecdotal stories, anecdotal evidence of my experience in the past 30 years. For example, I have learned that we should always be grateful for people we've met along the way. And it's a shout out to my former wife because of my former wife, she had prepared me for this kind of situation. Because back then, in the very rare times when we were still together, in the very rare time that I would leave the house, as soon as I get back home, she would immediately do contact tracing. And if she's not happy with the information that I would give, then she would subject me to physical distancing for 30 days. So in a way, I have been prepared for this. And again, in my more than 29 years of experience working in people management, the accumulation of experience from both the people I've worked with, the companies I've worked with, even up to this point, doing consulting work for companies, all of those things hopefully will be compiled in a book. But don't worry, it's not going to be so thick. It's just good enough for you to use it as a reference. I hope it's going to be very useful. The book has about 12 chapters. It includes chapters on leadership. We have the new playbook. We have sourcing and recruitment. The search is never over. We have also HR admin. We document excitement. And we have content, the personalization of content. We also have engagement, so redesigning people experience, coaching, the bright side of shadowing, learning performance, virtual plus reality, the strategic mix, and crisis management, the crisis-proof organization. So all these are actually included in a 12-chapter book, and hopefully more. And promise, no scary picture of mine. So, are we ready for a reset? I think that's the question. It feels strange again to be speaking to a screen, and I'm not even sure if somebody's listening, but I hope those of you who are there are actually listening. HR has always been criticized because whenever we ask for programs, whenever we ask for projects, we are always asking for projects because these are very good for the people. They make our people happy. But you know, in business, they will always say, give me a business case. Just 2 months before the pandemic, for example, before the lockdown, for a redesign of how we do things, of how we approach work. And while they say, yes, it's nice to have, they will always say, no, management will probably not allow it. And so the challenge now is that the business case has been made for us. What has been improbable, what has been impossible is actually now wide open. So when you say a reset, it's not the usual reboot that you do for a computer. In a reboot, for example, you may have to look at making an upgrade so that the work that we do is more secure, it's faster, it's powerful, and of course, it's user-friendly. Now, the main challenge, by the way, within the 35 minutes or so that I'll be covering 3 areas. Part of the book, the first one is to be the HR urgency checklist, recrafting the leadership playbook, and pursuing engagement at a time of disengagement. This is a very critical time because the problem here is fear. And I think the challenge here is that, I know it's okay to be afraid, but if you pair up fear, for example, with ignorance, and that's where HR is going to have more problems, especially if fear plus ignorance emanate from HR itself. The truth of the matter is, of the major viral pandemics that the world has suffered through the years, only the smallpox was actually able to produce, the fight against smallpox was the only one that was actually able to produce a very effective vaccine. The Spanish influenza, for example, it withered out back in 1918 after causing the deaths of more than 50 to 100 million people. SARS, for example, back in 2003, dissipated after a few months with with a little more than 823 people who died, and MERS-CoV back in 2015. So we have to look at the perspective of the fact that we may have to live with the virus for a certain period of time. They're saying that the earliest vaccine could probably come out in January of next year. So given that fact, we may have to work around that, but we cannot hide. We can never hide. We cannot hide all the time. So here, let's do a cutoff. I call it BC. So anything before December 2019 is considered before COVID. After that, whenever this is going to end, it's what we call as AD. And I made it all up. It's after endemic. So AD, for example, is when there are 2 ways for this to end. The 2 ways that we're looking at would be what they call as a medical end. That's when they find a cure or a vaccine. And by the way, in the pandemic, for example, of 1918, the vaccine came 12 years later. So the bubonic plague, for example, just went out, just withered, lost steam, but the vaccine was never found. So here, the medical end is going to be dictated by, of course, the probability of finding a vaccine or cure. But there's also what we call as a social end. And this is from the New York Times article by Gina Colata. When she said how pandemics rise, she mentioned that the social end is when we all decide enough is enough. Too tired of being cooped up in the house, we have to step out. And that's what's happening to most of the world right now. People are stepping out. You've probably heard of rallies in the US. They just wanted businesses to open so that they can go out again. They have to resume their lives. And that is a social end where we will have to live and coexist with the virus in the same way that we did with HIV, for example. So the first chapter that I'd like to talk about is the urgency checklist for HR. The first one is, should be on top of everybody's list, is that ourselves. Self-care is very important. Mindfulness is about being in the here and now, not 1 hour from now or not thinking about 2 hours from now, but it's the here and now. I came up with a acronym. It's PAUSE. First, we have to think. Pondering is a very important decision of weighing things before you make a decision. That is essentially very important for us. And whatever we do, don't rush into anything, please, especially if you're not equipped with data. You have to be very careful. The second part is we will all have our own fears, but we have to accept them and we have to move on. We cannot be defeated by our own fears. Easier said than done. I have my own challenges with fear management and anxiety management. But again, it's very important for us so that we can take care of ourselves before we can take care of other people. Remember, when you're on board a flight, for example, you wear your own mask first before you put on the masks of others. You is about unifying thoughts with actions. You cannot say you're okay and then you're all over the place. You're shouting, you're panicking, you're being clumsy and reckless. We cannot do that. You have to unify your thoughts. So if you say you're okay, you have to be ready to be okay. I think the main trigger there is your thought. So that thought should be in sync so that when you move, there is no discord within yourself. The second one is combat fatigue. This is when we realize that, oh, remember, we talked about work-life balance, we talked about work-life blend, but this time we go back to work-life boundary because we have to remember there are limits to what we can do at work. When you get back to work, if you haven't been to the office yet, you have to set your limits. Now, it's easy for companies to say that since you're at home, you're actually having it good. Well, no, definitely not. I think 45% of the labor force right now, in a survey of global workforce, they would rather be in the office. And the last one is express yourself clearly. Don't say yes if you have doubts. Don't say you're happy if you're not. Don't say you're okay with it because martyrdom is really a short-lived life. So if you want to serve people more, you have to take care of yourself. So that should be on top of your HR urgency checklist. By the way, the details of this are actually in the book, and there are actually steps on how to do this. So hopefully you get a copy of the book. The second one is psychological and physical safety of people. We need to take care of that, especially with the fact that when we probably go back to the office, we'll be wearing masks, we'll be wearing anything that shows a more distanced self. So to be able to connect, we have to come across as sincere still, even if we have all those get-ups and all of those shields. We need to protect and we have to make sure that everything will be sanitized, medical grade, for example, in terms of your usual hand wash and everything else. We have to safeguard people first and foremost. The third one is anxiety management. A very familiar topic for me. And this is actually my experience in terms of anxiety. I would like to treat anxiety as a fire truck. Before a fire truck comes in, you can actually hear a fire truck. And then you start being anxious because, probably there's fire. So the first thing you do is to look around and see if, is a fire Is the fire close? Is your house on fire? And then eventually you realize, and most of the time in our lifetime, that fire truck is just going to pass. Unfortunately, it goes to another destination. So in anxiety management, let the fire truck pass. As soon as it's within in front of you, don't do anything. Let it pass. Just welcome it and let it through. A very favorite quote of mine from Theodore Roosevelt said, if you're going through hell, keep on going. Our people will have so many anxieties when they get back, and there will be a big increase in people issues when they come back. They don't want to go to work, they don't feel safe, and so many excuses. They had those excuses before. There will be more this time. There will also be learned dependence when they will ask for anything from us. They will ask for anything from you, support, advices, everything will be asked from us. And you have to have the energy for this because they will demand so many things to pacify them, to make them reassured. And it's really, to a lot of us, it's going to be a thankless job. But this is not to scare you. We have to be prepared because this is what we have signed up for. You are the next line of frontliners. And we just have to do this. It's a responsibility. Do that, as this has upended business. Everything that we have done in so many years have changed. We are going to change the way we do things. So we cannot say no immediately. No, it's not possible, but we can make adjustments along the way. But the best way is to communicate to people why it cannot be done or why it can be delayed. And number 6 is about disengagement. I'll talk about disengagement more thoroughly in the last part. The 7th and the last one for the urgency checklist is when you do messaging. Now, Asia will, in this generation, by the way, it's the hashtag generation. We want it to be remembered for everything that we say. We wanted people to follow what we say. And so we leave trails of our communication. Look at these. I have a list here. We're all in this together. Tuloy ang laban. Let's do our share of sacrifices. Family send us one, and so on and so forth. Notice that there's nothing really wrong with these taglines. The only problem is when we use these taglines to prepare people for more hardships, and some of these are actually unnecessary hardships. If we prepare people for hardships and say, this is a battle cry because we're all in this together, sooner or later it becomes the playground for abuse. Oh, sige na, kaya people are suffering, you should be happy because you have a job, you didn't lose your job, and therefore you have to do so many sacrifices. If you do that, then the messaging becomes an echo chamber. An echo chamber is when you all hear echoes and meaning is lost. Meaning is lost. Then we could just, it doesn't sound inspiring anymore. Look at the new normal. We always say this is the new normal. In an article I shared at LinkedIn, the article I shared with LinkedIn, I have personally my requisites for new normal before I can say that this is the new normal. The first one is, are you settled? The virus hasn't settled yet. It has to go through a full cycle. It has to go through a hot season, wet season. It has to go through an entire year. For example, in the pandemic of 1917, it was in the summer of 1918 when it dissipated. Hopefully, that can happen again sooner, especially in the Philippines, which is already summer, tail end of summer. But have you settled? Are you okay with it? The second one is, have you given up? I raised 2 choices, by the way. The words resigned and reconciled. The first one is about giving up. When you say you resign, you surrender. Don't do anything anymore. You hide in your house. There's no way you're going to go out. You're going to resign. You don't want to go back. Reconciled, on the other hand, is the foundation of, this is what we call as resilience. When you say that, yes, it's bad, but I will do something good about it, that is being reconciled. What is going to be a new normal may have been a new normal for people, for example, in war-torn countries like Syria, where they always hide, and somehow they make meaningful instances out of their lives. That's their new normal. For us, we've been quarantined for 2 months. running 3, for example. And the third one is, have you adopted well? Only when you can say that you're in a better position now than before, then you're ready to claim this becomes your new normal. So for now, we may be wearing masks, we may be wearing gloves, we may be wearing face shields, we may be avoiding people. You may have to bring your own ruler so that you can measure people 6 feet away. But I don't want to accept that as a new normal. It's a temporary setback. It's a bump on the road. And we're going to be okay because something out there is something that we deserve. The second chapter is a leadership playbook. I'll just go very briefly about this chapter because I think a lot of people are into leadership right now. But the first one is, because of the crisis, a lot of leaders have been exposed. Those who were hoping that when they assume the role, everything's going to be fine and everything's going to be easy. Unfortunately, this is the worst time to be a leader. Unless, of course, you prove that you are competent and ready. So leaders of today, HR leaders, for example, corporate leaders, organizations, if you want to desire something, if you want to desire a leadership post, please work on your competence first. And you cannot just say, you cannot just bully people around just because you don't know the answers. You don't know where to find the answers. Number two, we have to work fast. No matter how good a decision maker you are, if you delay your decision making, sorry. In this particular instance, you may cost people lives. So you have to work fast. The third one is you have to relinquish control. And this is the problem because a lot of leaders right now have actually digitized their control. So what do? They actually monitor you almost every hour. They demand Zoom meetings from you every hour. So exhausting just because they want to see you. And then some companies would actually install software or application in laptops that are actually sent to employees so that they can monitor. They will do random screenshots. Those are very, very wicked ways of controlling people. And it's not going to work. So please do not digitize control. You have to let go. You really have to trust people. You can only set metrics. You don't have to ask them for updates every 5 p.m. just to see how they're doing. We are all guilty of this, for example, with our own house help. Because when our house help lives with us, there is no specific time in terms of how things are. You wake them up any given time of the day, any given time of the hour. You want them to do errands for you at midnight, 2 a.m., 2 a.m. And we blur the line. Leaders need to make sure, and Asia needs to push back any attempt to establish strict controls on people. Microsoft, for example, is allowing its team to work until October from home or from anywhere. Twitter, for example, up until 2021, until next year, they can work from wherever, from home. And it's okay to trust people. Number four, you have to deepen your bench. What is so pathetic is at the time of emergency, you will have leaders say, I cannot answer the question because somebody else has it. My staff has it. He's not here. He did the numbers. But by all means, promote the staff, let go the leader, retire the executive. You need to have a deeper bench. I found out, for example, that the interagency task force on the COVID-19 response for the entire Philippine government, for example, involved more than 80 people. That's a very large number. It's a very bureaucratic number. Those are very necessary agencies. However, you cannot have all 80 people in a Zoom meet. That's going to be insufferable. So what do? You come up with cluster leaders. Each cluster leader will have to report, and then you have to trust your cluster leaders that they know exactly what they're doing. So that you will only have 3, 4 people in a meeting. People who know the facts and people who can actually make recommendations and can decide just like that. And number 5, this is the wrong notion. There are so many leaders who are so good with metaphors, with taglines, with flowery words, and they say, you know what, you can inspire people. Well, not anymore. The foundation of inspiration and motivation are facts. When people say, we do this, why? Because these are the numbers. One of my favorite governors when I watch CNN is Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York. Whenever he does his briefing at 12 midnight, our time, he does so impressively because he works on numbers. And numbers are so inspiring because you can work around it. That's why people say trust the science. I'd like to share with you this ad from CNN about facts. It encapsulates everything about facts. So here, in a time of uncertainty, facts provide clarity. In a time of anxiety, facts comfort. In a time of misinformation, facts correct. In a time of division, facts unite. In a time of crisis, facts matter most. Facts first. Finally, how do we engage the disengaged? In a short while, I'll have a poll for you. Okay, what is a poll? It's a choice between true or false. The problem with the bad jokes, you don't even know if somebody's actually laughing, but hopefully at least my co-host moderator, my moderator is at least smiling. The first one is, you don't have to have patience. I mean, calculate your patience is what we call as latitude. Your situation, depending on the situation, but you have to give allowance for people. They may have incredible stories about what they're going through right now, and some of them may be exaggerations, but I think a number of them are going to be correct. And these are stories we can all engage, we can all relate to, because we need to listen to their stories. And I think this is very, very important. The second one is what we call as a personalized approach. It's no longer random employee approach. We need to speak to people. Again, despite the fact that we'll probably be wearing masks, probably not shaking hands, no hugs and everything else, we probably need to make sure that we treat everyone as an individual. And each individual has his or her own story that we have to listen to. Do not be drawn to the stories because otherwise you're going to be emotionally battered at the end of it. Just make sure that it provides you insights of who and what you're dealing with. Number three, and I think this is the poll now. So, which of the following urgencies do you want to address first? There are two choices: job redesign or reskilling. So please click what is far more important for you as an HR practitioner. The numbers are coming in and the votes are coming in. So we'll find out what for us is very important for HR: job redesign or job reskilling, or people reskilling. So I'll give it 20 seconds more. The unofficial tally shows that I won't let you know until we're done. And we are about to end the poll. Can I end the poll? Is it okay? Are we good? Okay. So the results are in so far. The poll is closed now. So far, reskilling is 58% and job redesign is 42%. So thank you very much for participating in the vote. For the priority, the answer is job redesign first. We need to review the tasks. When was the last time you actually reviewed the tasks? It's so important for us to review the tasks first, because some of these tasks may no longer be necessary given the circumstances, given the challenges, and given the revision of the targets. When you ask people to, for example, if only 50% of the employees are allowed to go inside a company, to work in a company, then using the reference for job redesign will make it easier for us to bring in the right people for the right tasks. And so for those who we can afford to be working away from the office, based on the tasks, based on the redesign of the task, then only then, when you're very clear about the redesigning of the tasks, only then will you prepare your people for the new skill requirements. Again, we go back to the foundation, and that is your job description to see what tasks are quite important. Thank you. Number 4, we have to set the infrastructure. Compton right now, by the way, will now consider the inclusion of internet from home, gadgets, more advanced laptops, for example, as part of your compensation and benefits package. Because this virtual setup is not going to go away. It's going to be there. It's going to be a mix for both. And we have to work with that, because people will not only work from home, they can work anywhere after this. They can go anywhere. And we have to set the infrastructure for that. We have to have the right equipment. You cannot demand for people to be always ready. They don't even have access to the internet. They only have this Wi-Fi, for example, this portable Wi-Fi, which is probably one of the worst, because in the Philippines, we have one of the worst in the world. Well, so include that as well. If you have to read your job and say that part of your job can actually be done remotely or away from the office, and therefore you need this, and you need to have very stable infrastructure. Number 5 is to set engagement metrics. This is the last part. So here it is. We always include Christmas parties, sports fest as engagement programs. But if you come to think about it, are they really engagement programs? I would like to share with you 5 metrics. First one is, after your program, were they more encouraged to learn? Were they more engaged? Did they participate more in learning exercises because of your program? After your Christmas party, were they really so fired up to attend the next training program for the next year? Were they more compliant with house rules, showing up on time, being present always? If they are absent, they inform people ahead. Are they more compliant in terms of how they do their jobs? Are they more detail oriented? The third one is, do they actually perform better after sports fest or after a team building, for example? Or are they always absent because the fun is no longer there? Have they volunteered, for example? Have they volunteered for social responsibility projects? Not because you force them, you don't even have to remind them. Did they actually stand up and say, no, we wanted to do this. We wanted to volunteer. We want to pack bags. We want to help distribute things, not as a means to get credit or something, or to be closer to the bosses, but really it's because their desire to help. Did you know that in some penal colonies in the US, some inmates actually force themselves to use cups, shared cups, especially with those suspected of COVID, so that they can actually be contaminated with the virus, and then they can actually be isolated in a better environment, like in a hospital area, in the sanitation room, which is easier for them to escape. So be careful about social responsibility. It has to come from the very heart of people so that it becomes sustainable. And finally, that they actually produce more than they're supposed to because of your engagement programs. Having said those things, you might ask, Joe, so how should we reclassify our Christmas party and our sports fest? You don't. It's up to you. You can even include that as an onboarding program, because you demand new employees to dance during the Christmas party, especially if it's the year that they were hired. You can include that as a benefit thing. Whereas this is very straightforward. It benefits them, for example, more than the company. So it has to be reclassified. My last quote is from, it's a heart-wrenching quote because it actually came from A 22-year-old, she was a very vivacious young lady who actually unfortunately died of opioid overdose. Her name is Cassidy Aspen Cochran, and for her, the time to heal is now, and this now has never existed before. So whatever it is that we're going through right now, we will all heal. And the choice is to heal faster, sooner, later, but I would like us, especially all Asian practitioners out there, to declare that we have to heal now. Before I wrap it up, I'd like to invite you for tomorrow's session. I have a it's a session with the Philippine Society for Training and Development, Cebu Corporation. It's about coaching, and we have a very influential international coaching executive. Her name is Lynn Lee, and she's going to be facilitating it from 4 to 6 p.m. tomorrow. The first one is May 21, and the second module will be on May 28. I would really encourage you to join. It's a very, it's a, the seats are very limited because Lynn wants to have a very small group so she can give more people more time to really work on the activities. So much and uncertainty. That's and the email address is here, pstdcbincorporated@gmail.com. So once again, tomorrow afternoon, if you're interested, please send an email to pstdcbincorporated@gmail.com. And again, I'd like to thank Grace Iligan, the president. I'd like to thank the vice president, Sir Ray, the moderator slash DJ slash VJ, the rest of the team, Sir Neil, everybody else, the Avengers, Ma'am O, Ma'am Andy Parini, Sir Ian Rial, Ma'am Pinky Mante, of course, Sir Chito Recomendas as always, Sir JM, and again, thank you so much to PMAP-Cebu and IntelliCare. The book, hopefully, once the lockdown is eased, will be available next month. And once again, I will go to PMAP to invite everybody, and hopefully you get a chance to have a copy of the book. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sir Jovinier. Wow, that was full packed. Now, this portion is dedicated actually for the Q&A, and I think we have one participant who would like to ask you a question. That's Miss Fatima Mateo. Can we?
Miss, you made it, Miss Fat.
Yeah. Can we put her on live for her audio?
If I cannot answer the question, Miss Fat, Sir Ray will answer it for me.
And I have the 50% of the book, yeah?
Yes. It's less 50% of the pages.
Less 50%.
Yeah.
Okay. I think she'll be back online. There's one question that's posted here. Okay. As HR, how can we also help our employees settle and adapt the new normal? Sir Joe?
Oh, a lot of hard work. It's, first of all, is the immediate environment that they're going back to. That's why we have to look at it in terms of, do they satisfy our requirements for physical distancing? That's a primary thing. The physical support comes first. So do they feel safe? Do they have the proper PPE, proper protective equipment? Do we have, for example, even your sanitizers, even your foot rugs, for example, that Ma'am Pinky Mantias has actually showcased for the airport? That is the first one, the physical environment first. And then the second one is, again, addressing anxieties and fears. I would also suggest that while people have so many sources of information, I would like each company, for example, to have an official source of information that if it's not in that particular portal, even if it's a Facebook page, even if it's not there, then it's not official, because people are actually getting so many information about the vaccine is coming. Well, realistically, the vaccine will not be there unless a major miracle happens. We won't be expecting a vaccine in January. So we will have to work around it. the most important thing is to take away the excuses of people for not reporting for work, for not being productive, for not feeling safe. So we have to, again, set the physical aspect and then work on the emotional next.
Okay, thank you, Sir Joe. Here's another question. Question number two. It says, in this time of economic crisis brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, how can HR strike a balance between maintaining engagement activities and programs and the need to control cost? Or if there is a need to prioritize programs, what would be your suggestion, especially that some companies are looking into right sizing their organization?
Well, first of all, I don't think people who still are still looking forward for a possible Christmas party at the end of the year. And I don't think they will be asking for more. And I think that's this, we go back to the basics because people are losing jobs. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be all somber when they go back to work. The very first thing that I would like the HR management team to do is that immediately get in touch with their leadership team, because you need to go back to your strategic plans. You need to redo your plans, because what we have done last year, I facilitated a few last year at the tail end of it's totally different. So we need to go back and say, I know people already cost, but if you want to help ease anxiety, please don't take away your engagement programs. You need to be more creative. You need to be more innovative when it comes to delivering those programs. So please fight for those. So alongside other things, I know companies are doing virtual team building, for example. So if you can do that, even at this point in time, do so. Keep on engaging people even at this point. So prepare them. It's not just about physical gatherings anymore. So yeah.
Okay, is there any more questions? You may raise your hand. Just click on the icon. Okay. I think we have one more question here from Michelle
Can
de
I,
Guzman. Hi, Joe.
yeah.
Let me just read this one. From Michelle de Guzman. Hi, Jobs. COVID-19 is not going away this year or next, even if a vaccine is available. This lack of socialization is hitting everyone, especially small families. What advice can you give to stay sane, still live a full life? Regards.
I Missy, you're giving me a very difficult time. Thank you, Missy. She's all the way from, she's actually in Manila. Thank you, Missy. That's why the World Health Organization revised the term. It's no longer social distancing. They want to focus on physical distancing, because we should not disconnect socially. I think the worst part of this situation is what we're going through now, the physical disconnect. And then even if you see people, you're so afraid to get near them. Just this morning, and Missy, you're exactly correct. Even if the vaccine is there, it's going to come around. The flu, the Spanish flu that we've heard about is still around very much, and it's in the form of your common cold. And although there's a vaccine for it, the flu vaccine, it's still there and it can hit us. It can be intense. It can actually be light, and for most people, it's just going to be something that we can shrug off. But more importantly, organizations need to reach out. Sincerity is key. That even if you just hear me or just listen to me or we just talk over the phone, we need to connect, and we need to really reach out in very creative ways and very heartfelt ways. Hopefully not using your usual empty hashtags and all of those. We need to tailor fit our communication to each one. And we need to be more encouraging about people standing up and voicing their concerns and sharing their fears. Organizations need to address every single one of those fears, because for all you know, those fears are universal in a particular team. They share the same fears, the same concerns. And even at this point, there's no excuse. Let's use technology, no matter how crappy your technology is. You don't have to have a formal Zoom meeting all the time. You can just have people interacting, just set up. You can have small groups, and for this small group, they can talk about their fears and their worries. And then you can probably ask them what bothers you, what is your fear, and how would you like to address those fear? What would you like us? What can you do for yourself? And what would you like the company to do to help ease that fear? So it has to be a two-way thing. It's easier said than done. As I said, everybody, it's nobody has been prepared for this, but it can actually be done because we're slowly getting back, easing back. Our leaders should understand they cannot contain us forever. It may be easy for them to contain us, but sooner or later we have to go out. And once we go out, that's it.
Juve, we still have another question. Here's a comment from Louis. Hi, Sir Juve. Congratulations for this obra maestra.
Oh, thank you.
Very timely and inspiring. Will you have an ebook for this?
Yes, the ebook will follow. Yes, so the paperback comes first, and then ebook will follow. In Manila, it's yeah.
Okay. Here's another one from your close friend Michael Godinez. How do we know now adjust how do we now adjust becoming an effective virtual leader since the face-to-face encounter or personal touch? Serious daw ni.
Seryoso ba tagsa? Sir Mike, wabi ko nangutana sa imuha during ko na. This is actually where the investment in the previous years before this time, the investments of the leader made, because if you have been a very good leader, a leader they could trust, no matter whether you're close or you're virtual, people will still follow you. People will be inspired by you, even if they don't see you all the time, even if they just see you through virtual meetings, for example, they will follow you. So for those like Sir Mike, is a very good leader, is very pro people. People will always believe what you say. That's your power. But for those who are still working hard on those things, well, HR can help. And that's why the leadership playbook is very important. We have to come up with a new playbook. We need to address the inefficiencies. Again, I mentioned earlier, competence, for example. We need to go back to competence because we follow competent people, not just people who talk, offer us the stars and the moon, can't even provide food for those who badly need or testing, for example. So those people need a lot of help, and hopefully HR organizations can actually help. They can do a short survey, Sir Mike. You can do a short survey with your respective teams by asking them, "How are you?" And then you can check. Are you happy with the leadership direction being provided for you? And you need to work harder, of course, in terms of, because we're now medium-based, technology-based. But again, for those leaders who have done their job, even before that, who have established very good reputations, very good relationships, nothing to worry about. People will follow.
There's another question from Christy Cabrido. Where and how can we get hold of the paperback?
The first one that will be released is the paper front. The paperback. I got a text from Sir Chito, and I hope I'm not putting PMAP on the spot, because they're saying that they would like PMAP to support the distribution of the books. So if I hope, Mom Grace, I'm not putting you on the spot, as Sir Chito suggested, that for those of us with PMAP, the book can be channeled through PMAP, and you can just probably by the first week of June, we'll do pre-orders for the first edition, and we'll do deliveries either through Grab or say CCAD. I'll deliver the books myself and do that stuff. But don't worry, we'll try to. it won't be readily available. The first edition definitely may not be available in bookstores because you have to go through quite a lot of putting books. The last one, my books were the National Bookstore for my fiction novels. It was very bureaucratic. So for the first run, probably it's going to be direct consumers. Yes. And Christy, don't worry. I'll get in touch.
Well, I got some comments here at the background, Sir Jove. Definitely, PMAP-Cebu will support you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is incredible because I said to Sir Ray, to Grace, and to PMAP that it's so humbling. You support me. You haven't even read the book, so the pressure is on. I hope it's worth it.
Okay, any more questions before we call it a day?
Yes, Sir Mike. Free ang shoes.
Yeah, according to Madam Grace Iligan, our president, we'll be launching your book in one of our GMMs.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Probably.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to thank Ian and Trish for helping out, especially on the book as well. Thank you so much, partners.
I think we're done for the day, Sir Jovenir. It's been a pleasure having you in our webinar. Thank you for sharing with us your virtual preview of your powerful playbook, Finding Mr. Arday.
Thank you.
Please let us know when paperback is really available in hand, and we could, we'll be grabbing more copies for you. And once again, I would like to acknowledge as well our Zoom sponsor, IntelliCare, and PMAP-Cebu chapter. And special thanks to the team behind the scene who made this webinar possible and smooth sailing. The Avengers, yeah, they call themselves the Avengers. Led by Captain America, Sir Neil Antiquina, with our technical master, J.M. Gilles, Ms. Pinky Mante, our YouTube and Facebook website technical master controller, Ms. Odette Cambonga, our slide controller and speaker interface, Ms. Anne DiParina, our chat box and participants experience, Sir Ian Real and Sir Jojo Cinco, our active manager and responder, and of course our PMAP-Cebu chapter president, Ms. Grace Iligan. To all our viewers over Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube, thank you for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you again for our next webinars. Just don't forget to subscribe in our PMAP-Cebu Facebook page for more updates. And yes, we have an upcoming webinar this coming Friday. And please don't forget, again, just check on our Facebook page. And this has been your moderator, Ray Filnar. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Be safe. Good afternoon.